Now, I have a question for you before I begin. I believe there are a number of finance people in the room, accountants and people who are looking at risk and what have you. If I was to ask you for $100,000 to invest in a project that I was working on, what would you want me to do? Please feel free to answer. What would you want me to do? Due diligence? Yes, you would like to know who I was. What else would you like to know? Have I got a planned budget? And the rate of return? Any others? $100,000 is a reasonable amount of money. See, the exit strategy. The point I'm making here is it's very interesting. In our world of business today, wherever we are, whether we're multinational companies, whether we're small businesses, is that we respect money in a way that we don't respect time. The latest statistics that have come out, and these are now being measured in the US and the UK because time now is increasing in value, is that approximately 40% of time in our business each day is wasted. Now, if you were to waste 40% of your money, then that would be, very, very difficult. I'm a very pragmatic, practical, passionate person. And the one thing that I would like to leave with in sharing with you today is to encourage you to increase the respect of your time. Now, I'm just going to, because as we said, very small amount of time, I am just going to encourage, to see if I can just change some of your mindsets. Because the problem with time is it's all become too hard. We are now living in a world that has never been as fast, with so many opportunities, with so much work coming to us, with so many changes. Yet for so many of us, we continue to work the way that we've worked for a long time. So let me just introduce you to a few ideas. First of all, we're talking about producing valuable results. So often we produce results, but the question is how valuable are those results? And what you'll see here, it says, with the conservation of time, energy, and effort. In other words, don't work hard, work smart. Now, you might say that that's a motherhood statement, but what I would say to you in return is smart people do smart things. Let me share with you the biggest challenge that is confronting businesses everywhere. And I work with businesses. I've just come back from Asia, 3 weeks in Asia, 150 people through our programs, working with the multinationals like BlackRock, Credit Suisse. Everybody is looking to do things better. I hear people say, oh, you're the people that do the time management. You're the people that teach people technology. That is not us at all. Because number one, we cannot manage our time. It's a myth. And the reason that it's a myth is in the last 3 to 4 years, there has been a huge increase in the amount of work. Now, that increase in work has come from many sources. Client expectations. Everybody in this room would know that their clients have a very different expectation. The busier your clients get, the more they rely on us to give excellent service. We have compliance and regulation. Australia's only seeing a tip of the iceberg as to what we've seen in Asia in terms of compliance, risk management, and all of the things that need to happen. All take more time. All take more time. We have a situation where we now have at our doorstep the biggest market in the world. And I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about all of Asia, Indonesia, India. And if we're willing and ready, we have great opportunities. But to approach those markets is going to take time. We live in a time zone that's very, very different. When we're in Hong Kong, the problem that we have, we're like the meat between the sandwich, because we have the US and the UK coming on in the afternoon. We have the Aussies and the New Zealanders in the morning. And then, of course, you go ahead and you put daylight saving in, and you've got 4 different states that are 4 different times. It's very, very difficult. Now, what we're saying to you is that it's not about managing time. The key thing here is how skilled are we to be able to make really good decisions about what is the most important work that we need to do in the time that we've got available. Now, that sounds all very well and good. Now, as from a productivity perspective, let me demonstrate how people work. What happens is we have a lot of work coming to us. We start to feel a little bit out of control. The inbox is full. We've got all these projects that we're supposed to be working on. The strategic work gets pushed back. The operational work we get drowned in. So the things that we could be doing, exactly as we were saying here, to add value, to move on, we don't even get to look at anymore. Now, once we're feeling out of control, we stop and sort. We go through, we redo the to-dos list, we flag things, colour things. You would think it's the United Nations. Now, how do we feel when we've done that? Most of us feel okay. Okay, we feel that we're actually in control again. Here's the problem. 5 hours later, I've just done this reorganizing. Nothing produced, by the way. It's just like moving the chairs on the Titanic. And what happens 5 hours later is that plan has no relationship to where we are. Because in 5 hours, we can receive 10 emails. Now, all I'm simply saying here is change the process. Instead of letting all the work come in, pile up, and then stop and sort all the time, a very practical way is to filter the work at the point of entry. Now, let me just show you here. This matrix has been around since very, very early, 1923. A lot of people say, oh, it was Covey, or it was this, or it was that, or whatever. No, it went back to the days of Ford, Deming, so many of the gurus around production, productivity. Actually, this is where this was anchored. Now, all we're saying to you is make this work for you. I can't tell you how many times people say to me, I know about this. My next question? Are you doing it? How is most work in today's work environment prioritized? How is most work prioritized? Urgency. When is everything needed? Yesterday, everybody in this room has got resources that are being wasted on work that has no value. Makes it very, very difficult. Now, with a mindset, as the work comes to us, whether it comes via email, whether it's project tasks, meetings, whatever it may be, when it comes through, we make the decision at the point of entry. And be brutal, be rigorous, because it's important where we invest the time. So let me just give you a little insight. High importance, high urgency. High value. Don't think about it's high importance, it's high urgency, high value. So what is the work that would return the best investment? And that's the work that we do. So, we would do that now. We would focus on that. This one here, important but not urgent. You know what most people do? They just defer it. They put it off. This is the one that we are suggesting that we become the most rigorous with. This is where the value is. This is the, long-term value. This is where we invest the time for today to get a return 2 or 3, whatever period it is down the track. Now, if I was to ask you where you manage this work, you would find it very difficult to say. Most people live in their inbox. Waste of time. It's crazy, because that's just the place where our work comes via email. We have all sorts of work. So being focused just on that type of work is not very, very helpful at all. This one here, delegate. We say to people, you should delegate more. People say to us, I've got no one to delegate to. And what that does is just puts us back in the old hierarchical structure that says delegation is top down. Everybody in this room gives work. Everybody in this room gets work. The skill of a good delegator today is how well do I give it, how well do I receive it, and how well do I track it. If I change the word delegation and said to you collaboration, what would you say? What's the difference? What does collaboration mean? How would you describe collaboration? Working together. See, there's no hierarchy here. And I hear a lot of people saying we're working as teams, but we need to have a strategy. We need to make it part of our initial planning. So very important. This one is my favorite, dump. I cannot believe people will say, I've got no work that I can dump. We live in a world where there's too much work and not enough time. If we are to let something go, this is the one that we need to let go. Very important. Now here's a really little tip, good tip and a trick. If you look at something, an email, a phone call, a client, whatever, and you're not sure whether you should do something with them or not, ask yourself the question, what would be the value if we did? And then, if there's no value, what would you do? We do actually filter some of our clients through this because sometimes in all of your businesses, you know that there are people you spend a lot of time on that you've got to think about the return on the investment and the value. So very important. Now, in terms of managing workflows, we suggest to you that there are 2 types of work. The first, just going back here. The first is the fixed work. This is the calendar work that we all do, meetings, appointments, presentations, everything like that. If I said to any of you in the room, if I said I would like to meet with you in 3 weeks' time, what would you do? Go. go straight to your calendar. And see, that work is visible. But look at this work here. This is the flexible work that we talk about. Phone calls, voicemail, project tasks, and what have you. And the challenge with that is that if I ask you what flexible work you're doing tomorrow, you could not tell me. You could not tell me. Because it's in our inboxes, it's in our heads, it's in our spiral notebooks, it's in our customer databases, it's all over the place. It's incredibly decentralized. When you think about planning work, we need to make the work centralized, and we need to give the work visibility. Very, very important. Now, sounds good, but the practical side is the implementation, because all the learning in the world has no value unless it's executed. We are encouraging people to get away from this whole syndrome of this one here, which is what we call the never-ending to-dos list. Now, a lot of people say to me, I don't have a to-dos list anymore. No, they're in an inbox that's got 10,000 emails. I was working with a group of clients yesterday in a workshop, and one guy said he looked at his, I showed him where he could find out, 18,000 emails sitting in his inbox. And he was shocked. He said, I didn't realize, because when you're constantly working with a full inbox, you're scrolling up and down, and you're looking to see every time we touch an email, we're touching it not once, we're touching it a dozen times. What we're encouraging you to do is to really break this syndrome. Through the technology, and this is the point I want to make, because technology is here. It's sitting on our desktops now. It's not something that you need to purchase, buy, or whatever. Through the technology, we can create a dynamic workflow. Now, a dynamic workflow that is visible, that you can communicate your workflow. In our team, we know exactly where people are at. If they're getting overloaded, they put their hand up. If they've got a little spare capacity, they say, guys, can I help? But with people, the way we're working, for a lot of people, the way that they're working today, there's no possibility of that, because there's no visibility of the work, which makes it very difficult. Now, just to give you a simple taste, this is the standard Outlook that's sitting on your desktop. Now, what this does is that I can see here a workflow, and this workflow is very, very dynamic. If you, as my manager, my team leader, came to me and said, what are you doing for the next week? What are you doing for the next 2 weeks? I can show this. And not only that, is it's incredibly flexible in terms of managing the new priorities in with the existing priorities and making the changes. Now, this is there. This is not something you have to go and buy. This is not something that costs a fortune. But how many of you have had any formal learning around productivity through technology? Very, very few. Yet every day in our businesses, we're looking for getting the leading edge. How many of your businesses have had process re-engineering? How many of you have looked at your own processes? Where did we learn to work? See, from a variety of places, it makes it very, very difficult. Now, the last thing I'd just like to share with you is that please, if possible, think about the time that you're spending in your email. I'm going to make a little bit of a controversial statement here. I would suggest to you that email is not going to be the main business tool within the next 3 to 4 years. Now, I say the main business tool. It still will be part of the business tool mix. Maybe four. One in every 2 emails now are not read and interpreted correctly. As a tool, it's actually on the decline. Now, you may ask me what's going to take its place. Who knows? I mean, I would be looking at the millenniums and Gen Z to have to come up with some of these things, but they need our guidance. They won't do it on their own. They'll need our guidance as well. And I'm just suggesting to you that when you think about how you manage your inbox, it needs to be a one-touch management. It needs to be very visible, and it needs to be very dynamic. I'm just going to just point out the majority of people in this room would not manage their sent items. The majority of people actually just leave their sent items in a big bucket. Yet, your sent items now are more important than your emails you receive, because that's where we give advice and that's where we ask for things. People say, I've got a folder list, structure, a good folder structure. but they've only got the emails they've received, not the emails they've sent. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense. And then there is a certain amount of work that needs to go through in terms of the task flow and everything else. So all I'm here to say to you today is that please do not feel that there is no solution to this. I don't care how you do it. You can read the books. I mean, my recommended book here is one of the best books that there ever was, and it was written over 25 years ago. So it's about taking on and not just letting that time be eroded. Filtering, focus, because people lose so much focus. Make sure you complete things. So many people have got so many different things all over the place. It's that completion that makes the difference. And then go home, have some fun, and spend time with your family and friends. Because the problem now is we're not having enough downtime. This is the frog. I'm sure you all know the story of the frog. I believe that we've adapted to this work environment. I believe we're like the frog that you put into cold water. You turn on the heat. As the pot gets hotter, the frog adapts. Until when? Until it meets its demise. If you put a frog in hot water, it will jump straight out again. Now, all I'm saying to you is it's time to really seriously challenge how we value time. So, thank you.